Hey everybody, my name is Dan Baker. I'm joined by my partner behind the camera. He has a face for radio, Woodboy.
It's true.
We're with Blue Collar Talent Scouts. We are a company that do a lot of things, but the most important thing is that we love the trades. And obviously the gentleman right here needs no introduction because anyone watching this already knows and or has met him. But sir, do us a favor and let everybody know who you are and what you do and why you do it.
What's going on? My name is Everett Lippel. I currently serve as the Director of Sales for Easy Flow International, a division called Supply Smart. We have about 6 distribution centers. We we do like mail order catalog and online. We have about 6,000 plumbing and HVAC supplies, and I have a team of about 20 people. We do about $30 million a year here.
Wow.
And I consult for an up and coming software company for the trades called Sera, S-E-R-A. That's been incredible, spreading like wildfire through the industry. Definitely something to look at, even if you're in the trades, you're looking at dispatching software. These guys invited me in here. I love what these guys do. Blue Collar Talent Scouts.
Yeah, this is the type of guy that you want to follow as well. And something that came to mind, I think I brought it up before, but just to see if everybody else is on the same mindset that I am. Easy Flow is Pearl Jam approved, right? Easy Flow. That was awesome. I made myself laugh. Thank you.
Oh my God.
That's a high five.
All right, we're cutting it off.
On this company, Supply Smart, we're a national distributor, wholesaler, manufacturer of plumbing and HVAC supplies, and then I also I consult with Sera, new software. It's pretty much, like wildfire through the industry right now. That was I gotten together with Billy Stevens, and it sort of just made sense. Like there's this big gap in the trades in general on trying to run your business, but you're usually working in your business,
right,
and you can't work on your business,
right.
And so Sera's design, and like I'm pretty picky about stuff that I like to get involved in. And when they approached me, it was like, all right, here's the product, here's what it's trying to do. There are things that just free up time with the software, because it's super smart in the way that it, we talk about right call, right tech, right? Like we're in the trades, right? So you've got plumbers, you've got electricians, you've got guys that, they might be good at one task and just not good at another.
Right.
And then you've got one big dispatch board, whether it's Service Titan or whatever.
Service Fusion,
doesn't matter.
Edge, House Call Pro,
And so now you've got to have your dispatchers have to figure out like, okay, where am I sending who, right? And so Sera will free up those tasks for the dispatcher to do other things that are more revenue generating, because you're able to assign attributes to your technicians. You can run your entire schedule within Sera. Like, so if your tech is off, he's off or she's off.
Right.
If your tech is on, then he or she can receive calls.
That sounds like a super smart way to do it, because we all know that the dispatcher is the puppet master, period. The dispatcher or dispatchers, they're running
the dispatcher
the show.
typically has to be checked by the manager, because the dispatcher's got 2 different or 3 different sources that are pushing out. She or he's got the text saying, hey, look, I don't want another call. She or he's got the one that, hey, I don't want to go across town. Why don't you send so-and-so? He's right there. Well, yeah, but he may not have the skills to do it. And their ultimate thing is being able to look at their boss and say, hey, I got all the calls cleared. Well, guess what? You got all the calls cleared, but you put 4 guys that really weren't qualified for the job they were doing in a position where you're going to have a recall probably.
Well, let's also not forget that the average HVAC, plumbing, electrical contractor in the U.S., and we're just talking residential service here, 84% roughly, those numbers may not be exact as far as percentages go, but roughly 84% of the contractors out there have between 4 to 8 employees total, right? So the dispatcher in a perfect world is only dispatching, but they're also inbound customer service.
Yeah, and one of the spouse is in the office, usually running the call board, or they're wearing 6 or 7 hats.
That's right.
This is kind of funny. So I came from I worked for ARS, I worked for some larger plumbing HVAC outfits.
Up in the Northeast, right?
I did. I helped manage one here in Dallas. That's why I came down here. So I was in Success Group International, SGI, right?
SGI,
Airtime.
definitely, for sure.
I won a bunch of awards with Airtime, and then next
AT500, PSI, ESI.
Yeah, I love those guys. So Nexstar, I was in Nexstar for a while.
Oh, wow.
I had a business coach in Nexstar. Nexstar is an incredible organization. And now, now that I'm working with other business owners and showing them, Sarah, or working with them to, with their supplies. It's funny how I end up I just end up sort of walking down the path. We did a trade show, Service World Expo, of, hey,
Yep.
so what percentage is residential? What percentage is commercial? What are you doing? How do you stock your trucks? And I get into all these conversations about stuff. And the vast majority of these companies are usually between 2 to 10 trucks.
Yeah.
And that's the core.
That is the backbone of everything that we do.
But so guys get stuck in there because they cannot scale because they don't have the time. They don't feel like they can hire anybody. And also, I think there's a level of, we're like an old school mentality trade,
Right.
A field. And I love that, right? I love to keep the human element within the field, which has to be present. But use the tools that are available to you to help you to then grow your you get comfortable.
Right.
You charge a certain price. And so going back to Sarah, when I talk to people about Sarah, we talk a lot about price increases this year. Holy mackerel!
All
right?
across the board,
But
whether you
then
want to or
you're not flush. You're not flush. You're not, at the end of the day.
turning those increases into labor costs because it costs more than ever to get your people. More for equipment, more for,
Or you're just not charging. Or you had a price increase, right? So Sarah, sort of the way that the price book works, okay, there's 3 elements to the software. So there's the dispatching element to it, which is designed to take away 70 to 80% of the dispatching task itself. Online booking, which everybody's starting to do right now because online booking is next level. Used to be like, hey, you want to call up, you need to, we us, big Nexstar SGI thing was, hey, it's a great day at ABC Plumbing. It's a great day. It's a great day.
Make me smile.
Yeah, so, and don't get me wrong, you're still going to have people who are going to book over the phone. I love that human element of it. You get to ask questions and do the screening processes, right? So there was all scripts that were designed for, hey, this is how you book a call. You screen it. You ask these questions. You get all this information, and now you have enough information. And I love that. And now you're seeing this huge shift to people who are just they don't even want to talk to somebody, and they'd rather deal with a company you can just book online. So making that process easy. One of the things, and this is I'm sort of giving away the Kool-Aid here.
We won't tell nobody.
So with all your CRMs, the way that this is what got me super excited. All of your CRMs are designed to book the call if you're online at servicetitan.com, at housecallpro.com. They're all designed, and what happens is, and that's cool, you can sign up and you can schedule online, and then it back feeds into your dispatch board. The difference with Sarah, okay, Billy Go started in Grapevine, and he owns the market. In 3 years, there's companies there for 25 years. He owns the market. Why? Because every interaction on Sarah is housed on your website.
That's awesome.
So Sarah sets up a widget, okay, a scheduling widget, and all of the interactions, your map of where your technician is, when you click, boom, it goes to your website, your online portal where you can look at your invoices, you can look at when your service calls were, any open quotes on your website. All of these are driving organic traffic back to your website.
Wow, that's awesome.
You could pay an SEO company, you could pay a price book company to do your pricing, because Sarah comes with a full-blown plumbing or HVAC price book. You could pay for that price book, and you could pay for a CRM. You could pay for all those 3 things. Now, I've done a call where somebody was paying, I think, I forget who it was. I don't want to call out other vendors. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer. I'm saying this is what I'm involved right now, and I'm excited about it. So you had 3 different companies doing something that Sarah did in 1 monthly fee, and it was it's doing everything I'm paying for. It's got the SEO element to drive people to my website for scheduling. It's got the online portal. It's got the price book, and it's got the dispatching software. And I had a 1 truck, 2 truck guy messaged me yesterday. He's like, dude, he's using a big platform. And he's like, bro, I need to get out of this. He's like, I need the automation piece because I just don't have the time.
Right.
He's in his office at 9 o'clock at night. And so in the trades, we tend to sacrifice so much of our life. I literally remember I worked for 52 days straight. I had a 1 or half day off in there one time. Like 50, and I know guys are like, oh, I worked like 300 days. Okay. Great. I'm telling you, I got 5 kids. You know what I mean? You know, being a dad is really important to me. If it wasn't important to me, I probably would have been a $4 to $5 million sales rep, like yearly.
For sure.
When I was selling, you know, I was in the $3 million range. Now I don't even know what that would be. I mean, it's insane because of the pricing where it went.
But how many hours did you work at?
Okay, so if I left my house at 8, my first call was at 9. There were times where I didn't step foot back in my door until like 11 or 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So, and that was very common. Like, ask my wife.
Work-life balance there.
No, ask my wife. No, well, there is in the shoulder months when, you know, you're only getting 1 or 2 calls a day and you're really 3-hour calls because you're like, you love the one you're with at that point in time. And I'm going to say this for people. So I love the field. I have a master license in New Jersey. I love the technical aspect of it. I love load calculations. I love the art of building an HVAC or a plumbing design system or a hydronics. I love it. The technical aspect of it always sort of drove me to like want to learn more because I didn't start in the trades.
Right.
I started in sales. So somebody sort of believed in me, and I was really I worked at a company that ended up getting bought by ARS, and but they believed in me, and they were like, okay, we're going to give you a shot. And I remember they were going to give up on me really early. I went like 0 for my first 11 calls.
Oh, wow.
0 for 11. And literally and I remember I had a sales manager. And
did they require you to follow a script, or did they give you enough leeway to kind of do your own thing?
You did, but you had to be street smart. You had to understand your customer. But it was a process from beginning to end. It was a full blown book, like sort of SGI style, that they made them their own.
Right.
I mean, from beginning to end, and educating the customer. And that book, okay. And if you watch this, which he's going to watch it, there's a sales manager. His name was Bill Gray. Bill Gray beat the shit out of me. Bill Gray beat the living shit out of me. I mean like torture. Like I was so, at the end of the day, like I was like, what am I, you know, I'm running all these calls, right? And of course I'm a bottom feeder at that point in time, so I'm getting all the crap calls, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, and there's no crap calls. Okay, fine.
Let's be real.
There's no
crap.
Let's be real.
But there
are crap calls.
There are crap calls. So, but that's okay. But you know what? And I learned later how to make those crap calls into gold.
Right.
And I realized I've seen all these things. I'll go back to Bill Gray in a second, but through the years, I see a lot of things online right now in all these business groups. It's like, oh, I'm running all these free estimates. Can we just say like this is the free estimate season? Free estimates. Oh, I hate free estimates. I'm like, dude, I posted in the group. I said, why don't you ask yourself why you're not closing those free estimates?
That's right.
Right? You're going in. You're already prejudging yourself, and then you're losing the job. Like that guy called you out there. If he's a tire kicker, that's fine. But he had a reason to call you there.
That's right.
Your phone rang and somebody inquired. You can't control somebody's buying habits. You can't control if somebody's going to get 5 bids.
Right.
You can control how you run that call,
Oh,
what you
amen to
show
that
that
for
customer, how you educate that customer, how you measure out the
How you treat
ductwork.
that customer.
And you know what? I've gone in to so many houses where it's like, you don't want to do it. This guy's getting 5 quotes, and you made a friend, and you created value, and then at the end of it, you were like, wow, I just got a check from this guy. That's crazy. This started out with him getting 4 quotes, and it ended with me building enough value to walk out of the house. But you're too lazy, right? You're too lazy to actually put the effort in to create the value, to go that extra step, even though you don't want to, because now this is your 3rd or 4th call that day. Right?
But don't you see that, like, again, HR background, right? But in the trades. Most of the guys that are in sales in the trades, it runs in streaks because they hit that hard call, they walk away with nothing. That next call is something they don't know how to shake off and walk back in with the right mentality.
Yeah, it's like so it's like in baseball, right? Like next pitch, like, okay, that was a strike, or now you're out. Baseball is a perfect analogy. You fail more in baseball than in any other sport, right? If you're an amazing hitter, if 3 out of 10 at bats you get on base, with a safe hit. it's the game. And then you have to build that mental toughness, and you got to keep going. And yeah, I've had those days where I'm calling my buddies like out in the road, and that's when the training happened. Mm-hmm. The training happened, on the road over the phone. That's where it was like, hey, I just got out of this house. I saw this. What do you say in this situation? That's a good question. Let me get Phil in here. So I got my buddy Phil from up in Jersey. He's going to do almost $4 million in sales this year, I think.
You go, Phil.
Phil, my buddy Russ is going to do maybe 4.5. It's pretty ridiculous. These guys, all these West Coast guys, we see these West Coast guys like all over social media and like some Texas guys. Let me tell you something. The Jersey is home to like probably arguably 10 of the top like 100 sales reps like in the whole country as it pertains to HVAC. And not only that, here you come into Texas or you come into California, like everything's okay. Let me guess, it's a horizontal in an attic. It's got 2 plenums hanging and a bunch of flex duct.
Right.
Yep. Okay. Oh, let me guess. This one's an upflow in a closet, returns underneath there, and the ductwork runs overhead into the attic. Yep. Like it's all just 2 plenums and then everybody whines and complains.
But Jersey is totally different.
One week in Jersey
You'll see everything under
you've
the
got 80. There were 7 change outs before you even stepped in the door. You've got a drop and boot that comes down. Your returns are wrong. You got trunk lines running through there.
It's a Frankenstein type of a mess, right?
You've got asbestos wrapped duct work. I mean, you walk into steam boiler. We had to learn steam boilers. Hydronic systems as far as delta T's like water, hot water, right? All sorts of radiant flooring, and then on top of it, forced air. And there are literally, you will see them. It's not like, oh, it's a rarity. Like you will see a steamer. So going back to this, so it was. I mean, learning this stuff was not like learning. Like guys aren't even doing load calcs half the time. Shame on you, by the way. They're not even doing load calcs. They're eyeing it up and going.
Don't hold back. Don't hold back now.
I'm gonna say, these guys are not doing load calcs. They're not even, and you know what? Okay, system's been in there for 10 years. Guy goes, listen, I love exactly the capacity. Don't screw with me. Don't tell me. I love it exactly. I love the way it feels. All right, that's one thing. It's another thing when you're looking at a house and you're like, yeah, this is not 5 tons. Like he's got a 5. I've taken out units that were literally 2 times the capacity. And and they're like, I'm so scared. Don't put half the capacity. So I'd say, well, rip it out if it doesn't work right, because I know the math on this thing right here, and done it, and they call me back, be like, whoa.
Let me ask you this: we talk with kids. We've got some kids who actually are thinking about the trades, going into this. Hey, you know what? Twice the car sounds like a great deal. Twice the truck, twice the money, whatever. What's wrong with putting something that's twice the size for an HVAC?
So bigger is not better. Now, as we're moving to more variable speed capacity units, there's less of an adverse effect, except you're paying more for the equipment. There's a design for it. Like in Texas, if you're designing between 98 and 105. In New Jersey, you're designing for like 88 to 92. So the issue is short cycling most of the time if you oversize. So if you're going with a single stage machine, you short cycle that thing and it's on and off all day long. Well, what happens if you just keep turning on and off a light or
burning out?
Yeah, so it's the wear and tear.
Things that you're talking about, and I hate because you're on a phenomenal roll, and we need to get back on this. But some of what you're talking about right now brings me back to there are two things that I see, right? By and large, the public looks at plumbers and air conditioning folks as bottom feeders, right? People don't look at blue collar as anything other than, well, if you can't get a college degree, then that's
changing.
It's 100% changing. There are more six-figure plumbers than there are folks with master's degrees that are making 90,000 plus.
Sure.
Right, and there's zero.
And they're happier.
And they're happier for sure, and they've got a skill set that'll never be outsourced. When it comes to it's very hard to find something that's recession-proof when it comes to employment, but when it comes to recession-resistant, you can't beat the trades, period. But you've got just this stigma out in the general public that blue-collar folks, are bottom feeders, and unfortunately, you still have contractors that don't really put the time to train their folks the proper way. And you are clearly the type of person that not only had training, but also went out there and actively sought training, and you are a shining example. As well as I gotta give a shout out to hashtag HVAC girl Heidi. We all know Heidi. She's another shining example of somebody that was lucky enough to be plugged into an organization or organizations that cared enough to properly train, but also you go above and beyond because you get it, you like it, and you are not only just a quote unquote salesperson.
No.
You are an absolute professional in the trades, and I mean your wealth of knowledge that scans pretty much every.
I think
every
what you're
possible
I think what you're
area.
trying to get at is, if the stigma. So
Yeah.
So I have friends who have 4-year, 6-year degrees, right? And look, go to school, get education. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm an advocate for college. I think people should go to college. But if you're a kid, if you're 18 right now, this is all you teach. You guys are teaching in schools now,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. High
You
school,
go-
high
you're-
school.
High schools
you're going-
promoting the trades.
It's amazing, and there's a big push for this now. We see it more because
Thank goodness they're finally starting to bring some type of trades related
Mike Rowe-
curriculum back in. Yeah,
Mike
for
Rowe's
sure.
been talking a lot about this. The trades 100% changed the trajectory of my life starting about 13 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I got if I didn't find it was crazy. It was actually one of the grandfathers or whatever of Nexstar. Okay, Dan Weltman, who approached a friend of mine, my friend Russell Anthony, approached him. Russell is a true professional in the field of HVAC. Technically, sales wise, he has happy customers everywhere. He works for a company called Arctic Air out
Yeah.
in New Jersey. They have
I think I placed a service technician out there in the mid 2000s.
so he's grown leaps and bounds. Now that company is like the #1 Home Depot authorized service provider in the country.
Oh wow.
And he approached him. My buddy was actually doing really poorly, believe it or not, at a car dealership, and he had been working at the car dealership since he was in high school. And he was working there, and then he made it to sales manager and stuff like that. And Dan Weltman came in and bought a car from him and said, I want you to work for my plumbing and HVAC company. And he goes, I know nothing about it. And
Right.
he had never, I don't think they had ever hired outside of
That's
the
right.
trade yet. And but there was this mentality going back that it was hire from outside because it's a lot easier to train a communicator, the plumbing and HVAC side.
Right.
So he was like, you're going to send me to all these trainings and you're going to invest in me. So he went through months and months of training, right? To, he was on the road learning ride-alongs, going on jobs, just like you would if you were an installer, just like you were,
Absolutely.
right? So, but he was learning how to design manual J, load calculations, duct design, all this kind of stuff. But then also doing sales training at the same time, right? Because we're a relationship business. This is not a transactional thing.
Right.
There's a lot of trust in there. A lot of these jobs cost a lot of money. You have to be and make that connection. So
Well, and everything we do affects quality of life, period, whether it's residential or commercial. Everything
Oh, yeah.
that we touch in the trades is a quality of life thing, period.
I agree with that. So on the whole stigma thing, we're all like, plumbing and HVAC, what are you going to do? And it changed all of our lives. In fact, if you look, there's like the Bill Parcells tree.
Yeah.
You look at all the people that came off of Bill Parcells. So that's like Russell. Russell got all of these people
Is
started.
that how you got?
That's how I
connected?
got started, because he went to go work for the largest company in New Jersey, and I went to go work there, and they took a chance on me. It was AJ Perry. And
What were you doing before that?
So I had spent, ironically, in my early 20s, I was actually in the mortgage business when the big boom was happening, right?
Right,
And I was
right.
actually doing okay, I had been taking, my dad had a business and that folded up, but he started it out of a garage. Unfortunately, he got sick, but I started knowing that business and sales was where I was going to go from a very young age. And then I was taking jobs. I did a few years in the mortgage industry. That was really cool. That crashed, and it was like, what do I do? So actually, ironically, I spent 1 year, I was commuting to New York City, right in Midtown Manhattan. And I did software.
That sounds exhausting, just driving up
well,
from Jersey
you
up to New York.
you can't really drive.
So you commuted via train?
You have to take a train or a bus unless your building has parking. The commuting, people complain here in Dallas about traffic.
Oh, no.
It's ridiculous. So remind me, I got to get back to Bill Gray because he beat the shit out of me.
Oh, for sure.
So, but I did 1 year of software sales, and so that was interesting, right? Like a little segue into Sarah. I don't know. It was actually, ironically enough, that company ended up getting bought by Norton Antivirus, Symantec or whatever. They got bought out. Anyway, it was a nightmare commute. Was what it was. And during that time, Russell found the trades, and he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "You should try this." And we were talking, and then next thing you know, all of a sudden here I am. I'm it's cool. I'm getting interviewed. I think this is my third podcast. I got another one coming up next month. but I think it's just because I bring a lot of passion, and also like I love the way that the industry works. It's like part mechanical and strategic, and part like sort of like, you know, psychological. So it has like all these elements, and
it's got everything. You know, from the outside looking in, anybody that's a lay person, they don't find the trade sexy at all. Period. They think it's dirty, it's gross, it doesn't matter. But as soon as you pierce that veil and you get inside, the trades are sexy as hell. Not only are they sexy, but you can make not just a livable wage, but you can make a phenomenal amount of money and a skill set that you can take literally anywhere in the country, from Jersey to Texas. You're more than rock and rolling here. And if you decide tomorrow to go to California, I wouldn't go to California, but
it's transferable.
Well, for sure. So you know what's sexy? What's sexy is having, for as long as that you can, that you want to do it, having a skill set that you can take anywhere you want to, and you can feed your family, period. And not just feed your family, your family can thrive. You know, that's sexy.
And what
for
you guys are
doing,
what you guys are doing is super cool. You're working, you're recruiting, you're talking to tradespeople, you're talking to people who you might recruit into the trades, right? And then you're also building awareness. The school stuff is really, that's awesome.
That is a ton of fun. We have a lot of fun. Yesterday, we were actually talking about this yesterday as well. Yesterday, we spent most of the day with a company called JB Warranties. Awesome organization.
Yeah. Hey, Brian. I know. JB.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks again. Last night was awesome. I'm going to kind of touch on something you had mentioned before. There definitely is, I don't want to say good old boy like it's a bad thing, right? In some cases it is for sure, but there's definitely an old school mentality here, right? And some of that I think is necessary. The way I look at it...
You mean here in Texas?
No, just for
in
the
the
trades in general.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it as, if the old school, so let's call the trades a tree, right? If the old school ways are roots, well, you know, it's good to have roots super deep, right? Now, you have to be flexible enough to embrace technology, get away from paper tickets. You have to be flexible enough to embrace flat rate pricing instead of time and material, because listen, Google's out there now. If you do time and material, they're going to call you on every single part that you put in there, period. That's just the way it's going to be, right? And if you want to increase the odds that you're going to actually make money on every single service ticket, flat rate's the only way to go. So being able to embrace those things, kind of shed the old school mentality as far as that goes, as far as training goes, as far as lettered vehicles, you know, as far as, you know, all the things that are progressive now, because as a society we continue to progress and embrace technology. Those old school mentality, you know, old ways of thinking, it's good that those are changing, but still the fact that the old school way of taking care of folks, treating people the way you want to be treated, not being afraid to get out there, roll up your sleeves and get in the muck, right? Dirty hands, clean money. That part of the old school mentality, I love.
So there's also like a work, you know, there's a work thing, and as we systemize and automize and all this kind of stuff, you know, it's like this.
Yeah.
Okay. In a copper application, right? You're sweating copper. Okay, a lot of, you know, you're teaching torches, everything like that. I mean, you've got plumbers who are so resistant, or HVAC guys who are so resistant to using like a pro press, or, you know, like press fittings, or even PEX, you know, or even PEX. And we sell a ton. So Supply Smart sells an absolute ton of PEX. I mean, ton. And you're seeing that, you know, and press fittings, right? So the idea of the press fitting was like, oh yeah, I'm old school. Like I can, you know, I'll sweat the copper. And I heard the other day, my buddy's like in plumbing now, like after.
That's still a big thing.
But it's like this old school sort of mentality. And so you find that like older guys, they've done it a certain way. They want to do it that way. And that's the way they want to do it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I get it. I'll explain this. So you had guys, I'd go in and I'd come up against a quote from a company, and the guy was like, it was like single stage 80%, single stage 13 SEER air conditioning system up Northeast Europe, 13 SEER is the minimum SEER, and single stage like across the board. And then I'd go into the, you know, questions, be like, are you comfortable? How's the humidity level in the summertime? Terrible. I hate the humidity. It's so humid. How's the air conditioner take care of the humidity? No, it's always humid in here. It's always hot or it's cold. It's hot or it's cold. So I'm like, okay, so it sounds like we should be looking at how's your electric bills? How's your gas bills? Oh, they're so high. They're astronomical. So, okay, are we going with a single stage 80% 13 SEER because you're going to save a few bucks? Or let's look at a multi-stage system that's going to get you better comfort, better humidity control, and work and operate better. And the old school guys, They just want to put the same stuff in because they were good at it, and that's all they knew. But if they took some time and they got back in the classroom, I took a ton. When I tell you I took a ton of classes, I got a doctorate in taking classes on new products and understanding innovation in the industry. Like,
That's awesome.
it's a passion of mine. I literally have a list. I you know, like when I started here at Easy Flow International, I literally sent them, because I was consulted here first before they brought me in as the director of the department. And I literally sent them, you know, they were like, hey, you know, we need somebody that understands products. And I was like, okay, guys, here you go. Like, so I have a list of all.
They didn't know what they were in for, huh?
All the classes I've ever taken. I mean, you know, from back in the day, you start adding it up. I'm like, oh yeah, so we're getting into like CSST. All right, so for your trades guys, corrugated stainless steel tubing. Everybody knows what it is, but what is it? It's gas pipe, right? Okay, so everybody's running the same thing, old school, new school. Like old black pipe. Okay, you're running old black pipe all the time. You're threading the black pipe. Maybe it's pre-threaded, maybe it's not, right?
Right.
Okay, so now this is the way you're running gas piping. Great, but you have CSST, corrugated stainless steel tubing. Yeah, there's a little difference in the installation, but it saves people so much time that you can do 2 jobs in the amount that it took you to do 1 job on threaded steel. So this concept, this thing with these old school guys, right? If you position it to them in a way where it's like, hey man, I understand you've been doing it this way, at least see what this, how the, you know why you can't get out of your business? Why you're working so hard? Why you can't make a buck at the end of the day? It's because you're not
running you instead
you're not
of
embracing
yeah.
You're not embracing some of these innovations that are actually really sort of, oh well, you know, those, it's not as strong, it's not as all right, you got gas running through this thing, right? You're not running, it's not like, you know. So I'm saying there's little things. I think that it's slow.
Sure.
Progress is slow.
You know what's exciting now is you're starting to see a younger generation really assume the reins when it comes to a management and or even an ownership level. You know, we talked before, I think it was before we started recording, it seems like every 10 years there's a big surge of money that comes in.
20 years maybe. The last one was publicly traded companies with like the whole, I don't know, I was working.
The Blue Dots of the world.
Blue Dot, yeah. Which actually got bought and then sold back, which is actually an interesting story. There's a company, I won't say which company, there's a company that got bought by Blue Dot and then that's publicly traded and then couldn't manage the company, sold the company back to the owner for pennies on the dollar.
Oh yeah.
And then had already banked the millions and millions of dollars for the business.
We've seen that though, because it'll be like a larger company, big investment group has an idea. They're going to make this thing more corporate, right? They're going to make this more streamlined. And they'll go and they'll buy a company and they'll start to put that in and they'll lose half the management team, or they'll start looking at specific locations if it's a multi-location type business. And guess what? That location's never performed to the same standard as we need it, you know, XYZ, you know, in terms of a gross margin. That's a small market, they'll never get there. And the prior owner comes back in and is like, well, yeah, I'll give you a nickel on the dollar for it.
That's right.
Because they can go back and at their level, they can make that.
They can go in and they can fix it. I will say, so this is crazy. So I'm an advisor on a couple of research firm boards where I come in as an industry expert and they pay me an hourly rate to sit on the phone and talk to private investment firms from everywhere. I've
done that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I do it on a regular, I get called now from all the time and I've upped my hourly rate to a ridiculous amount and they still keep paying me. So I'm like, okay, great. So it's just, they're desperate for information.
No question about it.
So what's funny about what you're saying, so that you're right. So they come in, they know nothing about the industry. They know that there's money, right? But you got guys like Ken Goodrich, who, you know, he's the leader. I know there's PE behind all that, the scenes, but he knows how to do it, but he knows how to play both sides of it, right? So, but if you're coming in as PE,
he's out of Arizona, right? Ken Goodrich.
Yeah, Gettle, and they're in San Antonio and Austin now too. So they've been trying to move into Dallas. Dallas is such a hot market. Literally, I literally get text messages all the time from people who want to buy companies in Dallas, and the owners here are just holding and sitting tight. I think they should sort of, you know, cash that check. But a lot of them, I've literally been in. I've talked to guys who, you know, there was sort of a negotiation that maybe I would come in and help to, you know, one of these PE guys to come in and help, you know, build a company that, you know, that was an existing company, and it didn't pan out. And all these companies, I mean, they're waiting for, I mean, huge multipliers. And I've talked to a business broker, and he doesn't think it's very sustainable for a long period of time. But it seems sort of static, where you've got this like money just pouring in, and now it's so. But
now, what's not sustainable? We talk about
like the amount of money
or the money coming in from the outside.
If you're paying 15 times multiple, 20, 15, 18 times multiple on a business, you better have quite a plan to scale that business, because you know, it's just, first of all, when the PE comes in, a lot of times you got to figure out who's staying, who's going. You might lose part of your staff, you know, so you got to have a rock solid, rock star team, you know, and listen, when I was with Air Pros, there was, you know, they were going out, and now I know Steve Weber. Steve is a mastermind. I mean, the guy knows everything about systemizing and automizing and processes and procedures and training that of anybody in the industry, period. If you ever want to talk to somebody, Steve Weber is like, the guy's incredible. So anyway, long story short, a lot of money. And so what does that tell you? There's a huge push with the trades. And I would say, if like any high school kids are watching this or whatever, explore it. Explore the world, because I will tell you something, and this is like simple. Mm-hmm. You could sit behind, you could go, I got a buddy who got a degree in graphic design, and literally like after like he graduated college, like everything went digital. Like, I mean, graphic, it was a worthless degree. You had to go back, you had to go back for like, you know,
you had to retool.
And then fight for a job for 50 grand a year, right? To sit in front of a computer screen your whole life, and then, you know, have to pay $100,000 in student debt. Mm-hmm. Or you spend $10,000, $20,000, maybe, if that, unless you get a company that's willing to pay for your training, right? Yeah. You bust your butt. And one thing that I love was, like, you're working in somebody's building. You're working in a home. You feel so accomplished when you're like done, you know, with whatever task it is. Like for me, I love to lay out like and sketch out like where the ducts are going, or you know, or you know, what kind of system they were going to go with them. You know, maybe where we're adding a return, or where we're going to hang the unit, where we're going to move the unit, and how that's going to free up attic space or whatever. And you're doing something, and it takes up brain space. You're not sitting in front of a screen all day long. You're out in the field. And you feel, I always felt, I use the word feel, I always felt like that was, for me, then you're in the truck, and you're driving to your next call. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, it's sort of a rinse and repeat. Is it a grind? Yes, but it can be financially, it changed my life.
Oh, without question.
Yeah, sure.
And the feel-good thing that you were talking about before, let's break it down to its simplest parts. Plumbers take bad water away and they bring in fresh water. That's literally what they do, right? An air conditioning or a heating tech, you know, or installer, you're helping the quality, you know, of a dwelling or a business, right? So electricians, you know, you flip a switch, lights come on, you know. The reality is everything that we do, whether you
By the way, you just offended every single electrician.
Well, come on, guys, you know what I mean.
Electricians?
Electricians.
You know what? Especially now with all the gadgets, all the details and all that stuff, and it's all superfluous, right? It's not as important as some of the other stuff.
One of the big
but
words.
You can't have heat or AC typically.
Without electrical.
You can have oil heat systems, but you need electricity. You can't have lights without electricity. You can't have computers.
I'm not dissing Sparky, I promise you.
Yeah, you can't charge your phone without electricity. You can't. There's all of that.
I think George Carlin said it best. He was like, "You want to send this? Do you want to send this world back into the Stone Age? Turn off the electricity."
That's right, exactly. Absolutely. So obviously, it goes without saying. You know, one of my favorite customers that we've been working with for a long time. They're heavy duty construction, you know, electricians, and they build amazing things that are still there today. You know, this company was created in 1928. Pretty close to 100 years old. Yeah, so obviously it goes without saying. Thanks for calling me out, though.
I was just kidding.
No, that was good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
You
Because
need
that
someone to kind
portrait-
of keep him straight.
Yeah, because I bust wood shops, probably a little bit too much, and it's good when I get it back, right?
Very regularly. Very regularly.
It's cool too. I love the perspective that now I get. So working through the field, my story, right? Started in the trade, somebody took a chance on me.
Yeah.
First 6 months, a little rocky ground, 0 for 11, right? Bill Gray beat the crap out of me. And now I look back, he was the most impactful manager I ever had. Arguably, I probably could owe a large portion of my career to, and what he taught me was in like a toughness. Like, he was a feed the strong mentality, right? Like if you're not performing, like you don't get fed. You don't get the calls. You got to earn it. You got to earn it. And he sort of instilled this like really like, I'm talking cutthroat mentality, and it worked. It was a residual effect, right? You don't realize it until you look back in time and you go, and this is a lesson for anybody who's dealing with leaders who they come down on them really hard or they're really hard on them. Sometimes you need that and you don't know you need it, and it's hard in that moment because you're just so bubbled up with anger. You're like, man, this guy is just coming down on me. And I think there's probably, Bill could have been a little softer on certain things, right, Bill? And but challenging your employees, challenging, right, as a leader, challenging your people. And so he was like he built this process, and that was, you talked about this process, this sales process, and not enough guys, I think, when building systems, we talk about, listen, part of this job, unless you're just a commercial guy, you're sitting there, you're fixing rooftops, nothing wrong with that if you're a fix-it guy. But if you're watching and you're not a fix-it guy, you're actually, let's say you're a fix-it, but you also have to sell. You have to customer face. Communication's important, right? Nobody likes to be sold anything, right? But we do like to be, we do like to purchase. We like to understand what we're buying, right? So creating that process, I think that there's not enough guys aren't focusing in on that. And one of the things that I learned early on was understanding all these check boxes through this presentation and this book, literal book that we go through and implement that, and it actually became an experience for the homeowner or the business owner. Now, not everybody wants to be bored with so you got to pick your battles.
Right. Sure.
If you have somebody who's interested and they want to learn more, then teach them. Then educate them, because there's value in there, and they'll probably end up buying from you specifically because you gave them. We are thinking of the wrong things when we think of sales. We're not thinking. You're educating and you're creating value so that person exchanges money for a transaction with you. It's not, I'm going to sell this guy. That mentality.
I gotta close.
Well, you do, but how? The question is how.
Yeah.
And when you change your mindset, you change your mentality. There's trainers out there. Jason Walker is one of those trainers out there. He's doing HVAC Masters of the Hustle. You got Victor Rancourt, who's got his training school. And there's a lot of Joe Crisera's got his method.
Uncle Joe,
man.
Love Uncle Joe.
I love Uncle Joe. Like there's not one, right? Charlie, probably the most impactful person, right?
Charlie Greer.
Is Charlie Greer for me.
Yeah.
And he has a 16 disc set called Slacker's Guide to HVAC Sales. And I don't know, many people don't know he has
I'm
this.
familiar with that, yeah.
It was the single most impactful training I've ever taken. 16 discs, right? How crazy do you have to be, by the way, Charlie? But 16 discs at the time. And our old boss, Rich Bogda, up at Service Professionals in New Jersey, and he handed me this thing and said, listen, the guy's wacky, but take what you can out of it. And I had done Tom Piscitelli. He did some Tom Piscitelli training, and Dale Carnegie sales training, and Zig Ziglar, and Tom Hopkins, and Tracy, Brian Tracy.
Eat That Frog's my favorite book of all time. Dude, it's a Brian Tracy book.
I love it. Grant Cardone. I mean, you name it, I've soaked it in, like become a student of it. So all this stuff, though, if you listen to all of these guys, they all say the same thing. It's all about like building value to get to the transaction. It's about closing doors. It's about answering questions. It's not about how am I going to now. Then you get into Grant Cardone.
Well, I think the thing is, some people hear that and they see it in the movies, Glengarry, Glenn Ross, Boiler Room, whatever. And that whole idea of close is force the person to a decision without knowledge. And that's not what real close is. It's having what exactly you said. You've educated them to the point, you've led them to the point where you're saying, all right, what makes the most sense to you?
Or yeah, Joe Crisera would say, what should we do? Okay, so I will say, now, once you get to that point and you've closed all your objections, you've closed all your doorways and they don't have any objections left, at that point in time, there are closing tactics.
I get it.
There's a difference. Grant Cardone, 101 closes, also one of the most impactful, incredibly impactful the trainings I've ever done. And I'll tell you, like Bill Gray would say this. He'd say, you know what? The best close is a good presentation.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great point.
So learning that, going through, understanding, learning IQ, then feeding myself, watching videos, understanding, going through that, pricing, how it all works. That's step one. Right, moved on to I spent, I did the exact same thing for a couple baseball teams. So I played baseball for a couple of different organizations.
That's
right?
really cool.
Well, because no, I don't mean literally. I mean like I was working as in HVAC sales for a couple organizations, doing the exact same thing, just in somebody else. And then I got an award from ACA. I was like number 11 in the country for sales back in 2012 or 14, something like that. And then I got some plaques on the walls and stuff like that. Really cool. Won a few trips for sales contests and whatnot. And then you learn to get better and you see what you did wrong and then you try to correct that. So if we move, so now it's like, all right, so now I'm increasing the amount of technical knowledge that I have because I wasn't just happy because a lot of guys are fine with just doing the sales stuff.
Right.
They know enough to understand like, hey, this is a single stage, 2-stage, variable speed, but they don't really understand how it works. And so you can be a good salesman like that. I'm not saying you can't. But you also, you can be better if you know the technical aspect of it, but you don't let it get in your way. Because if you let the technical aspect get in your way, you're never going to succeed because you're going to sort of mind, psychobabble yourself. So, and then, here we are, I'm in SGI, I get approached by, a company here in Dallas, and he's like, hey man, come down here, help me out, let's see if we can make this happen. And I was really, really excited to come down here. How
long ago was that?
So that was, it'll be 3 years in May. And I spent exactly a year there. It actually, we had a lot of success. We did a lot of great things. We created a lot of processes and we did a lot of planning that were really meaningful. We actually ended up increasing the average ticket by about $2,000 on stuff, and it was all about educating customers, going from single stage equipment to 2-stage and variable. Our number one selling product was a single stage Lennox air conditioning system when I got there. When we left, our number one selling product was a 20-SEER variable speed unit, and that was based upon educating the consumer on what the benefits of that 20-SEER unit was, and efficiency, comfort, all this. And these people were buying premium products. They weren't being like sold. We had option sheets. It was like 1, 2, 3, or 4. Here's your options, right? Like, and then they would go, no, I want the best one. I mean, it was unbelievable how you show people. And this is people who are scared when they show options. And they're like, oh man, you've got an itty bitty repair, you kind of band-aid, then you got like something a little more robust, and then like
the good, better, best scenario.
Sure, or your bronze, silver,
silver, platinum.
Yeah. Ooh. So my buddy John Vasquez, who's
1 star, 3 star, 5 star.
That's right.
My buddy John Vasquez works he works for a large company in New Jersey, and they used to be owned by the gas company, right? So he does a lot of oil to gas conversions. He's always on, and he's got a whole territory. It's like they're still converting over everybody from oil to gas. Like people don't realize in the world, like there's places that don't have gas, like it's still oil. But he does a lot of HVAC, a lot of hydronics, and he came up one day and we were like doing. I was like, hey, did you show him the bronze, silver, and gold? And he was like, actually, I showed him the gold, platinum, and diamond.
Oh. But ours goes to 11.
I got that. Yeah, I got that. 11. So, yeah. And then, so walking all the way through, here I am. And then, so I've been doing a bunch of consulting. I did the Air Pros thing for about 4 months. They flew me all around the country. And this was all like, again, I started like, I'm running calls for 5,000-6,000 calls. I had done some sales management already, and I ran my own shop. And when I got my master license, I partnered up with a guy in Jersey that did home performance. And for those of you that are in the trades or getting in the trades, home performance. A lot of states have a program where you do an energy audit on a home, and this is another, right, where you're testing the actual home,
Yep.
and you're testing the efficiency of the house and how well the insulation levels are, et cetera, et cetera. Texas not as big because newer construction, but in places that are older construction, this is a huge thing. So I did about 1 year, I did like 700,000 sales on this program, where I was able to.
And the pay was a percentage of the savings. Is that how it works?
No. So
Okay.
the way that it works is if you.
I know that's a thing. So tell me how yours was.
There's different approaches. If you can get the house to save a minimum of 20%, you're better. Okay, there's rebate levels. So let's just say ideally you save somebody 25% of their carbon footprint in the house. What does this mean? You typically have to do the furnace and the water heater and insulation in the attic, because your attic plane is where you lose most of your energy. So as long as you do those three things, it could bundle up. The state or the gas company would offer financing and a cash rebate. So we had a program that would give them a furnace, an air conditioner, a water heater. Usually you got to go power vent or tankless to get it above a certain efficiency level. And now think about all the work that you are providing, and then insulation in the attic, right? This is a great program. People are getting more efficient. They're saving money on their homes. People have difference of opinion on this stuff. It doesn't matter because you're moving. Think about how many people are involved with that. Like, you talk about trades, man. You got insulation guys in the attic. Like, you have guys that are putting in plumbers, putting in water heaters. You got guys doing furnaces, air conditioners, gas piping, right? So I mean, you're filing permits with the city. I mean, it's amazing to get this kind of product on. So we did well. I spent a lot of time creating price books and trying to figure this whole thing out. Pulled about $1 million in business within not 9 months.
Wow.
Yep. And unfortunately, with that situation, I'll just be politically correct, and I'll just say make sure when you get into business with somebody that you get into business with the right people. That was a very big learning curve for me. It went bad. It went really bad. So I would caution, if you do get into business with somebody and you have a partner, you need to have trust. There has to be trust there, and also trust but verify, and make sure your contracts are sort of bulletproof and solid.
Yeah.
Regardless
But
if it's a
in the
brother,
meantime-
uncle, whatever.
In the meantime, with all those audits you did, the ways that you put those recommendations together, I'm guessing it saved people money on a monthly basis. And what percent of
Tremendous. 30%. In some cases,
Wow,
they save
that's big.
Well, no. How many people saw a savings out of that? Out of the 100%?
almost everybody. There was nobody I ever got a call back who said that unless it was installed improperly, there was nobody that saved, because it's numerical. If you're going from a furnace that's running at like you do, let's say you have a combustion analyzer, and you analyze the actual AFU rating on something, and it's 72%, right? And you go from a 72% efficient furnace, right? So you're wasting 28%, $28 out of 100 you're out the window. And I put in a 97% efficient furnace, and I can actually test it.
Exactly.
All right, so the delta, but now you've got a multi-staged furnace. You actually can run. It doesn't have just one stage of operation, right? So now you're running lower, a little longer, right? It's coating the house with heat more. There's science behind this, right? Slower heating cycles, but they become more efficient. And you're going from a kilowatt, the SEER, the way that they figure out SEER rating, and you're going from an old, now it's working at 10 or 8 SEER, and you put a 17 SEER air conditioning system in there. Now in the summer, for their 4 months, they're running their air conditioner, and then you take their water heater, which was probably 0.58, let's say, EF rating, and you go to a 95% efficient tankless water heater.
Exactly. But the reason I asked that is because think about what we were just talking about a minute ago. The old school guys in the trade. Oh, I don't want to try something new. I don't want to do something different.
If it ain't broke,
so
don't fix it.
they look at the things that you're talking about, those improvements to a water heater, multi-stage system versus single stage, more insulation, and they think, that's snake oil. That's all they're doing is selling snake oil. Well, no. It really has the science behind it. So
the counter argument to that is, as things get more efficient, there's obviously more that can go wrong.
Right.
Which now, okay, this is a two-edged sword, right? On the one hand, well, there's more that can go wrong, so let's stick to something really simple, and it has no moving parts or limited moving parts, so we're not going to progress because we're going to keep it, right, like simple, dumbed down. There's value in that. The other thing is, you're in the trades. If there's more maintenance, okay, that's fine, and there's a benefit, right? The maintenance is not going to outweigh, like the amount of maintenance you're going to put in is not going to get yourself a good warranty.
Right.
It's not going to outweigh the extra time that you have to do maintenance. Also, you're in the trades. It keeps you in houses. It keeps you working, right? Going in, doing the water heater flush. Working on the units. I don't see a benefit. I don't see a downfall. Somebody posted a picture the other day of literally a 112-year-old like boiler in a house covered in asbestos, right? It still works.
Right.
There's nothing that can go wrong. I mean, it works at 32% efficiency, but there's nothing.
And there's asbestos in the house.
Yeah, they're shoveling coal. They're shoveling coal in there. It's still coal-fired. We would have that. We would see like coal-fired furnaces and stuff like that back in Jersey, like that were converted to oil and then converted to gas. And now they want to take it out. The guys.
I have no doubt in my mind that everybody that's seeing this right now knows Everett or knows of Everett. But if you don't, Everett is a phenomenal example of what the trades can do for a person. Being in the trades is not just somebody digging a ditch. It's not just somebody pulling wire, bending pipe, running cable trays. It's not just somebody who's who's cleaning coils, in the attic. It's somebody who can, obviously those are critically important without question, but you can take the trades, you can take the knowledge and what the trades have to offer, and you can take it anywhere you want to go.
It's interesting you say that, right? So yeah, and I've springboarded this now where, I'm in a leadership role. I have a 20-man team. I run almost a $30 million operation, all started in the understanding the trades. We offer 6,000
How many guys?
products.
How many business owners in the trades have you worked with that their background was at some point they just went and they started digging ditches as part of a plumbing crew, or they started installing systems and learning as they went? How many of those guys?
All of them, almost all of them. You have. With the exception of, again, sales specifically, you might have had a guy who came from outside, but in some way they paid their dues.
Yeah.
So if you're starting out and it's not sexy and you're like, well, man, I don't know, do I want to start out as an apprentice? Yes, start out as an apprentice, learn, soak it in, listen to the old school guys, because there's value and knowledge in all of that.
In all of it.
What you guys are doing, by the way, and this educating, and I know you do a ton of recruiting, right?
Recruiting, consulting, retention. Retention is one of the biggest things, right? It's half the battle is finding somebody. Retaining that person is a total different issue. And going back to the old school topic that we brought up multiple times, there still is an old school mentality in the trades that, well, I'm going to treat people the way I was treated. Listen, some folks can handle that. I'm a military guy. You're from Jersey. It's almost the same, right? Right? So...
It's almost the same.
It's almost the same. Forget about it. Gabagool.
Forget about it.
You haven't said gabagool once. I'm a little shocked.
Gabagool.
No, but the reality is we live in a different world now. So when it comes to our role in consulting, we're really helping to educate contractors. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? Delivering, it's just like that in sales, right? It's the delivery, the context of what you're saying versus the delivery of what you're saying. It matters. It really does, right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big piece. And of course, what we're doing in high schools, is a critical piece as well. We just absolutely love it because, 20 years ago, there were more people than there were jobs. It's not even close to the same. As a matter of fact, the average age of a tradesperson, period, is in the 50s, whether it's low 50s or high 50s, and it's market driven for sure. But the average age of folks in the field right now is 50. What does that mean?
A lot of people are retired.
Retired, yes.
What's the biggest problem with retention that you see?
Well, actually, what's going to be the best person? I definitely have my thoughts on that. But
I think
what's entire
retention
career is all about
just there are so many companies out there with so many hooks. And look, it doesn't matter who you work for. There's going to be something you don't like, right? It's always that way. The grass is always greener syndrome, whatever you want to call it. But when you've got 4 guys that you run into in the course of a day, filling up your truck, because you're in a company vehicle, it's got the big sign on the side. You're sitting at, Subway having lunch, or you've grabbed a sandwich going through a drive-through. Someone's walking up to you with a business card saying, I can make you more money.
Sure.
I can get you more money. And, just in the last month, Dan and I were talking with the JB Warranties people yesterday. We had a guy we were talking to about a potential job. He had been working at a company for a few years. He's an AC. He was making $18 an hour. Well, guess what? some company, he already had accepted another job by the time we talked to him. Some company's going to give him $32 an hour. But you know what? He's still willing to listen to us and see, have we got something better?
Right.
And so you've got that aspect of things.
Yeah.
I think in addition to that, you do have that old school mentality. Hey, look, when I was a kid coming up in this trade, my manager was a hard ass. Right?
Yeah.
Guess what? They managed the way they were managed.
Yeah.
And it's a different world now.
It
some
is.
of the things, some of the jokes that sort of,
You know-
I recall some of that stuff that came out, people don't put up with now. And in fact, people are looking for a provocation to say, that's it, I'm out of here, and
Sure.
go somewhere else.
And it's
And they have the power to do that,
Supply
man,
and
because
demand.
for one qualified person, I'm not talking rock star, one qualified person that is borderline proficient in whatever aspect of the trades, for every one person, there are 10 opportunities, if not more, that they can go to in the blink of an eye, in the blink of an eye. And so, it's time for contractors specifically to take a step back and, take a step back and think about it. And you had mentioned something about apprentices.
Yeah.
Here's one cool thing as well. A lot of companies are forced to create their own farm system, period. You talked about baseball. Build up your own team. A lot of folks get nervous about that because they say, hey, listen, what if I spend all this time training them, and they leave?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? If you don't spend that time training them, I promise you they're going to leave.
So, oh my gosh, there's so much packed in here.
Yeah, and I think we've got just a little,
All right, so check. So, all right, so what you guys just said, right? So you got supply demand. You got people that are right. One, I took a.
Oh, I can make that smooth edit for sure.
All
Go
right,
ahead. We're talking about the Cowboys.
So, yeah. How about them Cowboys? Yeah, the money.
Sorry.
The money. Obviously, money is going to be important, especially from 18 to 32. But
Yeah.
if you create a culture and an environment where your people that the money, if they did get an offer that was more, where they're like, I really like working where I'm at, they'll sacrifice. You're at work a lot. They'll sacrifice
Unless
that
it's
for their
life-changing money,
Sure.
people leave cultures. Like, if
Yeah.
you're going to double your pay, or another common thing.
I'm out.
Yeah, and that's life-changing money, right? Another common thing as well as promotions that were promised but didn't happen. Going from the field to a manager, or from a manager to a partner, depending on the setup of the situation, or from a service tech that happens to be a selling service tech to an actual full-time salesperson, because that's definitely a trajectory that a lot of folks want to do. And
They want to do that.
It's
yeah.
funny. I know a lot more folks that came from the field into sales that want to go back into the field.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Because we're now set up so that a proficient service, whatever, electrician service, plumber service, HVAC technician, customers are really going to listen to them a lot more if they come from a proper position of power than somebody that just walks in off the street as a quote unquote salesperson. That's not the rule. It's not like that all the time. But at least from my experience, you can make just as much, if not more, as a salesperson turning a wrench than you could just being a quote unquote salesperson. But again, there's different strokes for different folks for sure, and it's a big, amazing world out there, and there's a lot of opportunities in the trades. Period. And looking at a guy like Everett, I mean, listen, if people didn't know that you were in the trades, you could literally put, people would believe that you're from any industry, a Wall Street guy,
like a many
straight up
face.
business
And
guy,
so,
for sure.
and I know we're done here.
Final thought.
So it comes down to really perception, right? So you would now with all sorts of business training, a business background. My dad, God bless your soul, Dad. But understanding this stuff, where you came from, right? And then make yourself valuable.
Yeah.
Make yourself valuable. And I think that people, and I gotta say this, I think people lied to their kids. They lied for years, ever since the 80s or whatever. You lied, you got to go to college to get this job, because if you don't go to college, you're a failure, and blah, blah, blah. And now the mindset is changing in America, right? I mean,
thank goodness.
There are organizations that are now not screening for college degrees, thank God, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, and again, I know that but I guess I'm sort of like a shining example of, hey, you know what? I took a path that was in the trades, and I look back at my life and my success and everything and my fulfillment. And fulfillment's the main thing. And I would say break that dichotomy, break that thought process. Anybody watching this and they're thinking, maybe I want to get into the trades and I'm not really sure, like you're reaching some of these kids, try it. You'd see that it can be financially rewarding.
One of the things that Wood and I always talk about, and it's the topic of every single high school discussion and junior high discussion we have, at least consider it. Consider the trades. You know, it may not be for everybody, but consider it. Don't automatically check it off as being a bad thing. Consider the trades.
Yeah.
Right?
I have people ask me for my card and say, listen, my daughter is dating a guy and he's
a
not
plumber.
college material. He's
Yeah.
not college material. And it's like,
Perfect.
well, then why would we want him in the trades? Because if he's not going to apply himself in school,
That's right.
he's not going to do any better.
Well,
in
there's
the
guys.
trades.
There's guys that make. There are just not good students that'll make
Well,
great tradesmen.
But if they don't apply themselves, then there's
well,
that.
that's a discipline problem, my friend.
I understand.
So for all that are watching,
Says the father of 5.
Yeah, we didn't specifically have, an arranged topic or theme. I'm a huge fan of letting conversations, grow organically.
Yeah, those are the
for
best
sure.
kind, yeah.
This is one out of many times that you'll be seeing Everett for sure. We're probably doing a lot of Zoom meetings and stuff like that as well. We definitely have to get a reaction whenever the Cowboys win the Super Bowl, though. That's
It'll be
what-
cool. Maybe it'll be this year.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Maybe
I know
it'll
you
be
hate
the-
the Cowboys. Just
maybe
saying.
it'll be the
I'm
Jets,
not.
right?
I'm a Jets fan, and I now, because I live here, I've sort of been osmosised into being a Dallas Cowboys fan. Well, when I went to the
Jerry
stadium,
Jones gets you. Jerry Jones
dude, I went
gets
to
you.
that stadium. It's a monolith, a
It is.
palace. It was amazing.
You can go to the stadium with free tickets and free parking tickets. You're still walking out of there spending $250. Jerry Jones is going to get a scratch.
Yeah,
That's just
funny.
the way. That's a good way to close. Don't you
Dude,
think?
thank you so
I
much
think
for
so.
having me
Give
on
me
here. That was
absolutely.
awesome.
Good stuff,
Perfect.
Sure.
All right.